Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Well, it's kind of hard to avoid the fact that it's once again awards season, or as we in the black media call it, the white media trying to credentialize and bestow instant legitimacy on its tools season. And of course, even though you have a lot of black folks who from time to time will complain about how things such as the Oscars so white is a scandal, the truth of the matter is a lot of these Negroes, they're simply trying to leverage that as a way to get some quickie attention for themselves. It's just a fact. Because the way that so many of these Hollywood Negroes are actually getting happy about the Oscars, for what I don't know, you would think that the Oscars was the most egalitarian place in the world, but of course it's not. That brings us to Karla Sofía Gascón. Now, for those of you who are going, who? You're not alone. This individual is apparently somebody who the white media wanted to turn into a cause celeb, pun intended, basically for no other reason than the fact that this is a transgender person. Now, everything I know about this person is simply what I've seen the white media reporting about them, and I literally can't tell you anything about them other than this person is from Spain, allegedly, and this person is transgender. That's it. But the white media is celebrating and getting happy and saying, oh, this person's got a movie that they're in, that they're starring in, and this person is a trailblazer and they're making history and all the rest of that. Well, don't look now, but your trailblazer is making history, all right, for being the most racist Oscar nominee in recent years. This Gascon character is up for an Oscar nomination, allegedly, this year, but as it turns out, the interest in this person also sparked an investigation into some of their past social media, and you can probably guess what happened next. Turns out that less than a month after George Floyd was murdered, this racist went on social media and, in Spanish, wrote, "Let me get this straight. A guy tries to pass off a counterfeit bill after consuming methamphetamine. An idiot policeman arrives and goes too far in arresting him, killing him, ruining the lives of his family and his colleagues, and turning the guy with the bill into a martyr hero." I truly believe that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict and a hustler, but his death has served to highlight once again that there are those who still consider black people to be monkeys without rights and those who consider the police to be murderers, all wrong. Now that was just one of a number of hot takes that this idiot decided to post online, but the thing to be remembered is this person is not an English speaker. But everyone knows that most Americans can only speak English, and that you can get away with a lot of racist statements if you do it in a foreign language, especially if you're speaking to the press outside of the United States, because the U.S. media doesn't cover those foreign celebrities or their statements or foreign media, and even if they did, most Americans don't care. So no one will ever find out what this person was thinking. Well, they found out about this one. Now, the interesting thing is Dave Chappelle got raked over the coals for allegedly being transphobic. Well, here you got this trans person who's making all of these racist remarks, and the same people who are saying cancel Dave Chappelle, they're crickets right now. They're not telling Netflix, hey, we told you to cancel Dave Chappelle, now we're telling you to cancel this person. No, they're like, oh, we ain't saying nothing at all. But then again, that's par for the course, isn't it? And this kind of thing has happened before. There was a British actress, Charlotte Rampling, who is bilingual. She speaks English and French. She said that black actors who boycotted the Oscars back in 2016 due to the nominees being all white for the umpteenth time in a row, she said that was racist towards white people. So black people deciding to stay home from an event that they have no participation in, she says that that's racist towards white people. Talk about stretching to find some sort of phony reason for outrage. But then, just to make sure that there was no doubt what she thinks of black people, she said, quote, "We can never know if it's really the case. Sometimes maybe black actors didn't deserve to make the short list." And then she went on to say, "Why classify people? These days, everyone is more or less accepted." First of all, if she didn't know what the reason was for black nominees being categorically excluded from the Oscars, then she shouldn't have been speculating. Ignorance becomes stupidity when someone chooses to speak from it. When somebody doesn't know something, that makes them ignorant. When they don't know something but insist on speaking anyway, that makes them stupid. And when she said everyone is more or less accepted, I have to ask, which one is it? Are people more accepted or less? Because they can't be both. They can't be more accepted and less. And she herself said it, more or less accepted. So which one? For those people out there who just don't understand how it is that pigs like Donald Trump or former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, these philandering cads, can get reelected time and again with the majority of white female voter support, this is the reason why. Charlotte Rampling understands that her place in the world, such as it was, wasn't the result of her gender. It was because of her race, and if this wrinkled-up racist wants to keep getting what few crumbs she does, she better stick up for her white privilege and attack anyone who she thinks undermines it, or even merely questions it. This rambling woman thought that conducting her interview in French meant that nobody would find out what she had said. She thought she was being slick. Well, it turns out that while U.S. audiences are monolingual, the audiences in Britain and France are more worldly. So she got caught and then tried to do a pathetic 180, claiming that the media had misinterpreted what she said, even though it had been recorded. And that, well, what she meant to say was that in an ideal world, every performance would be given equal opportunity for consideration. One has to wonder what stupid PR person came up with that line of crap. Because what part of maybe black actors didn't deserve to make the shortlist, or these days everyone is more or less accepted, was misinterpreted? No, people understood her exactly the way she said it. And by the way, this geriatric bigot has been working nonstop regardless. She's been in those Dune movies that came out recently, so Hollywood did what it always does when someone attacks black people, puts them on ice for a few minutes, and then brings them back later and declares, well, nobody cares about all that racist stuff that they said, by which they mean they don't care about it because they never did. So it doesn't matter if you have a transgender from Spain or if you got a biological woman from Britain. When it comes to anti-black racism, everybody operates out of the same playbook. What we see happening here this year is not new at all. This is standard operating procedure for the white media. This Gascon character understands why they were put on in the first place, same as Charlotte Rampling did. The Oscars are not a meritocracy because you can't have merit under white supremacy. All you can have is white fiat. It's totally political. The nominees for the Academy Awards are chosen by a small group of people who in many cases didn't even watch the movies that they were supposed to be evaluating. They just nominate people based on their own personal relationships. And in an industry that's dominated by non-black people, that means the nominees will be overwhelmingly white regardless of the merit. But this is the well that these racists are drawing from. The white media's spin on this Gascon character was to say that this person had made an apology. Well, we know what that phony baloney tactic means. This racist puke didn't say much and clearly didn't mean a phony word of it, because only the next day they were on Instagram saying what they really thought, that they didn't apologize for anything, and that they would never apologize. And then this person doubled down on it, saying that it was all cancel culture. Well, so much for apologies. As always, you have these racists who think that they have the right to attack us, and then they try to hide behind being a minority, or in this case using the phrase marginalized, which is the same thing. And this is why we have to delineate ourselves. This is why Dr. Claude Anderson preached the sermon not to let anyone lump us in with these other groups, because white supremacy has made its inroads with them, and many of these groups, or at the very least, majorities of their members, either see themselves as honorary members of the oppressor class, or in the case of the Latino community in specific, many just outright classify and identify as white altogether. Okay, so why didn't this person delete this racist crap in the first place? Surely they knew that this would come back to haunt them, right? Well, here's an idea. We know for a fact that the white media keeps the controversial social media posts of these bootlicking Negroes who work for them in a catalog somewhere. We saw this with Joy Reid. And they keep this stuff tucked away, just holding on to it, waiting for their bootlick to either let their mouth get loose so they can fire them and show, see, these niggers, we're keeping the screws to them. Or when it's time to reduce staff and the Negroes who will be the first ones kicked off the team are going to have their old indiscretions brought back to light. So this person's social media posts were not unknown to the white media. They already knew about this mess. They just didn't think anybody else did. And this is why the white media and the Academy Awards pretended to be so enamored with this person. They knew all about this racist bigotry and their anti-black racism. As far as they were concerned, this was giving them a wink and a nod. We're going to go ahead and reward you. We're going to go ahead and validate you, credentialize you, which is the purpose that so-called awards serve under white supremacy. It's a means to bestow instant legitimacy on somebody. Doesn't matter if they earned it or not, and under white supremacy, they never earned it. So whenever you got people out there saying, well, how come the black community isn't getting out there and marching for transgender this, that, and a third? It's because you got the same anti-black racism coming from that group as you get from any other sector in the society. You can't have it both ways. You cannot claim that I know what it means to be marginalized. Meanwhile, you are trading in every single anti-black trope that you can. You got these people who want to try to claim that they're somehow marginalized, and yet every chance they get, they justify the murders of black people, they try to find a way to run interference for it, and they repeat every anti-black talking point that you can think of. And you're going to have black folks out there, especially these bootlicking Negroes out there in Tinseltown, they know what their job is under white supremacy, to go ahead and applaud like so many trained seals. So before it's all over, don't be surprised if Zoe Saldana or whomever decides to go ahead and say, well, I'm sure that this person didn't mean it. I've seen their heart and I know that they're better than this. Can't we just all move it? Yeah, that's what they always do. You got these Negroes here to be their crash dummies. Zoe Saldana also has her own little anti-black scandals that she's been embroiled in over the years. But those of us in the B1, we're not giving anyone a pass. So long as the white media continues to put these anti-black racists on a pedestal and to praise them and to heap all sorts of lauditudes on them, and let's go ahead and give them some awards, as long as that continues, as far as we're concerned, to hell with their so-called awards and to hell with them. And why shouldn't we take that stance? After all, we know better than anyone that no matter who's been nominated, in the end, the only winner is anti-black racism. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Kenneth Dickerson, Black Voltron Reloaded, Ikegas Dorset, Deep I-904, and Andrew Lewis. Salute to them, and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.